here. My name is Ziad Abdelnour. I'm President and CEO of Blackhawk Partners, and I'm the founder and chairman of the Financial Policy Council. We are going into our 10th year. In July 2020, we'll be 10 years old. 55 events, 250,000 followers on social media, 52 sponsors. That's a hell of a ride. What do we really stand for? What's our mission? For all the newcomers who haven't attended our events before. Well, you know, the way I look at it, capitalism is under siege. Today, you're criticized if you call yourself a capitalist. We are hardcore, raw capitalists. We are radical capitalists. We are the worst nightmare for the left. And anybody who's leftist here, he can leave. There's no fair and balance. It's our way or the highway. That's how it is. We want to build an army of capitalists, millionaires and billionaires, to take this country back. We want to teach it in schools, colleges, everywhere. We want to make a difference. It's time to do that. This is war. This is not a hobby. This is not, oh, you know, my opinion is this. No, either I'm going to crush you and make you rich, or that's it. This is war. That's how I look at it. No non-profit organization in America talks like this. They don't dare. Because you know why? Because they have a big papa gorilla, 800-pound gorilla, who funds them. We are fiercely independent. No one funds us but us. Our sponsors, the board, ourselves, and we intend to keep it this way. Nobody's going to buy us, intimidate us, bully us, or anything. We're going to bully them and turn them into radical capitalists. I follow Ayn Rand. Individualism, objectivism, capitalism. Each one of us should be a cash flow machine. Paul, Peter, John, Inc. That's how it should be. And we should not be apologetic about it. Sorry, I offended your feeling. Get offended. Sue me. I don't care if you're offended. We're here to make things happen, to have results. That's extremely important. Our freedom rests on that. Make no mistake about it. Money is first and foremost about freedom. It's not about acquiring things, flaunting things, how many cars, yachts, planes, homes you have. It's basically being able to tell whoever your boss is, company, government, senator, congressman, you know what? Take a hike. I don't need you, you need me. Each one of us should be like this. This is very empowering. This is the essence of it all. If you don't have this, you will never be wealthy. And you will never understand what it is to be wealthy. And to be free. More than wealth, it's freedom. They're curtailing your freedom, your privacy, your security, your destiny, your faith, your family, your future. I'm not going to accept this. That's why I created, with a great board, the FPC. And starting in 2020, we're running a big campaign on TV everywhere, talking about that. Nobody today talks about that. Yeah, they give you inspirational, motivational speeches a la Tony Robbins and all this crap. This is all theory. This is not real business. I don't have here on the panel, none of them is a professor, is an academic, is an economist. I have zero respect for people with no skin in the game. If you don't have skin in the game, your opinion doesn't matter. All these opinionated prima donna at Harvard Business School or the Ivy League colleges who get a cushy, pathetic salary of $400,000 and they think they know it all. And they pontificate to these young, stupid minds as to how to run a business. They never ran one, they don't have any skin in the game, it's all pontification. You want to listen to the people in the trenches who have skin in the game, who know what risk is, who know how to manage risk. This is what the Financial Policy Council is all about. And I assure you, there's no organization in the United States of America that's as independent, and that talks like this, and that means everything they do. We actually today entered in a joint venture with Wayne Winsley there, with another nonprofit. We're going to provide them as a seed $100,000 to go and educate, empower all these students in schools and colleges about the virtues of capitalism and how to make money. In addition to my book that's coming up early 2020, which is called Startup Saboteurs: How Ego, Incompetence, and Small Thinking Prevent True Wealth Creation. This is a book that goes into the deep insight as to how to scale a business and build $1 billion business. All freedom, all talk, all inspiration, all motivation doesn't mean squat if you don't know how to do it. After 30 years in the business, I'm teaching people, sharing with them in the book, and in a course that we'll be doing, about how to do that. How to really make real, excuse my French, fuck you money. Yeah, you want fuck you money, you have nothing. You're a number, you're dust in the wind. Nobody cares what you say, how you feel. Nobody, no government, no corporation, sometimes not even your parents, unless you're lucky, who care or understand what you're going through. I've been through that. I feel I've lived 6 lifetimes, and I'm teaching it, and I'm going to do a course on that, how to do that. There's nothing more empowering, not just for me, for you too. No bigger legacy you leave than empowering people to think and act this way. That's true power. That's how you make a real difference. All the rest is for the birds. So, that's what we stand for, finding solutions. So we've been doing 55 events so far. Every time we talk about a different asset class, we covered every single topic you want. Smart cities investing, cryptocurrency, hedge funds, real estate. You can go to our website, check out the past videos. Even counterterrorism with former CIA Director Jim Mosey, you name it. But what's different, if you go to another nonprofit and you listen to this, they give you speeches, and we're not going to do speeches here. We talked about exactly how do you do it. How do you really create wealth? These experts in the cannabis industry, which we're going to talk about, have done it. Some of them have failed, some of them have succeeded. You only learn from your failures. We want to give you first first exposure to people in the field, in the space, who have done it. This is how you benefit. If you don't get out of here saying, wow, we have failed. I don't settle for anything then, what the hell is this? This is wow. Nobody talks like this, nobody thinks like this, because they don't have the guts. To close, before making the introduction, let me really tell you what matters in my long experience in the business. 3 things matter. And you have to deal with people who have only these 3 characteristics. If one is missing, he better change. It doesn't matter your education. It doesn't matter your color. It doesn't matter your religion. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter your nationality. So what is left? I'll tell you what matters. And these 3 things are equally important. Number 1 is guts. You need to deal with people who are as gutsy or more gutsy than you. Anybody else is going to bring you down. Oh, Ziad, calm down. You don't. No. I don't want people who are going to calm me down. I want people who are going to push me further, to test my limits. Guts. 2, brains. If you have the guts and no brains, you're a loose cannon. And if you have the brains and no guts, you're a bureaucrat. And there's tons of them inhabiting these skyscrapers in Manhattan. Good number crunchers, good, yes boss, no problem. Oh, I have to run now, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, rat race. They will never be wealthy. Never. They'll get a pension when they're 60, 65 years old, barely to survive, if they survive for it. And 3, heart, compassion for people, for caring. Everybody thinks, you know what, I give you one, you give me one. I invite you to lunch, you invite me back to lunch. These are the small thinkers. These are the stupid idiots. Just give, and keep giving. And what you will get in return is much bigger. I gave tons of things throughout my life. I never expected anybody to give me back. Anybody who expects this from me, out. If they don't have the 3, out. I'm not here to collect names. We're not here to collect names on our LinkedIn. This is how many connections I have. It's ridiculous. Guts, brains, and heart. This is, you stick to that, you are unstoppable. And you'll be able to vet people right from the beginning. So I'd like to thank first the board of directors, the board members who have sponsored those events and who have been increasingly supportive throughout the years. I'd like them to stand up for a big applause. Also, I'd like to thank our 52 sponsors so far. Too long to name in here. But a special thanks goes to our current supporters, Pure Harvest Cannabis Group, Helix TCS, and Hyper. Now, when we start the event, before we start the event, we usually like to honor every event an entrepreneur. It's all about entrepreneurship. We praise, we support, we feature entrepreneurs. Now, tell me how many organizations, non-profit, honor entrepreneurs. They look at them with disdain. It's corporate America, it's establishment. We are the elite. We don't offer these rebel entrepreneurs. Well, we are exactly the reverse. Entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of the system, or the entrepreneurs are the capitalists, Lovely entrepreneurs are billionaires, not corporate employees. We like this spirit, the disruptors, the rebels, the mavericks, the kick-ass entrepreneurs. Today, the Entrepreneur Award goes to Dirk Craig. Dirk, where are you? Other than being a close friend and a client, Dirk is one of the most quintessential entrepreneurs I've ever met in my 30-year career in finance. Smart, humble, a real builder, great at dealing with people. I'm not going to steal your thunder, Dirk, but we're really very glad to have you in here. And we'd really like to give you this award here today. Thank you, Paul. Don't drop the ball.
You know, whenever you follow a speech like Ziad's, it's a tough one because I wanted to say amen and hallelujah several times while he was speaking there. So I want to thank you and the council for giving me a few minutes to speak. And I said, Ziad, what should I talk about? And he said, inspire us. So I'll give you my own story and what my focus is as a human being. And I hope that it inspires you, although from talking with many of you prior to walking here to the auditorium, I was very impressed. I truly am humbled to be in the presence of such great capitalists. And that's what I am. I'm a capitalist too, an entrepreneurial capitalist. I always tell people I'm a Christian, I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm very much an entrepreneur. So I grew up in Michigan, just to give you my history, and then I want to tell you what I'm doing today, which may help you in some of your thinking. First of all, grew up poor. I think it's wonderful to start off with modest means because you end up scraping and there's no allowances. There's hand-me-down clothes. I had 6 brothers. 4 of us slept in an unheated attic in Michigan. The winter was plenty cold, probably 45 degrees was a good warm winter night. And in the summer it was literally hot and humid as Michigan gets. And, 2 paper routes. I started working at the age of 11, but I realized early in life that it was fun to make money. And in my first company when I was 15 years old, I always laugh about it because my partner, his dad was a judge in town, and it was a painting company, and we were painting houses and factories, and the judge drove by one day, and all of our high school buddies are up on ladders and leaning over, and he was deathly afraid he was going to be sued as the judge, so he properly incorporated us and made us buy insurance, and it gave me a competitive advantage because now I could offer, my clients half the price of professional painters, and we literally put my way through savings for college in that business. I graduated from Michigan State University, got out in 1980. A lot of you are way too young for them to know, but unemployment in Michigan was extraordinarily high, and like 18% high. And matter of fact, if you look back, interest rates and unemployment in Michigan were both double 18s in 1980. And the only job I could get was one of the jobs I had putting my way through college, which was in a foundry and a machining shop. And so I got out, I started buying scrap metals, and one of the companies I'm going to talk about today, we're still buying scrap, and there's a lot of money in scrap. So I graduated from Michigan State, moved to Alabama. After a couple of years, I went back, I got a couple of masters, I got scholarships, went to a dual master program between Southern Methodist and a school called Thunderbird, where I studied Chinese and international trade finance. And the second scholarship was from a company called Valmont, which is in a large-scale center pivot irrigation and farming. So I got out in 1984, and literally met leaders in 15 countries, because back in those days you showed up to build farms in third world countries, the doors of power would fly open, but back then there were lesser developed countries, not emerging markets. So we had to do all kinds of crazy trade deals to generate the trade credit in order to bring them capital to build farms. And today we're still building farms. The most recent farm we built is in Australia. If you look it up on the web, it's a really cool farm. It's called Sundrop Farms. KKR now owns it. It was the first concentrated solar park where we took the solar energy and turned it into heat to desalinate seawater. And that fresh water goes into a greenhouse, 40-acre square greenhouse, and we literally grow 18 to 20% of all the tomatoes in Australia. GMO, non-GMO, perfect ripened tomatoes like you buy in your Costco. So, but long story short, I came back after the farming. I got into the hotel business and helped build a company called the Residence Inn Company, which today everyone knows is owned by Marriott. We built it rapidly from 16 hotels to 106. We were taking it public, and Bill Marriott put a number on the table, which was better than going public. And so we sold it to Bill, and then I worked for Bill. And then really, it was a great corporate job if you want to be a corporate player, financing a couple of billion a year on Wall Street as well as overseas and hotel development. I was then recruited to Solomon Brothers, where I did a liar's poker class. If anyone here ever read the book, I was 4 classes behind Michael Lewis, and all the same players were there that are in the book. And long story short, I was like a kid in a candy shop, learning all the greatest financial techniques Wall Street had to offer. I left Solomon and bought distressed real estate in the financial crisis before the last one, and that made me financially independent. Buy low, sell dear, and we raised a lot of money out of Taiwan in those days. And then after that, one of my interpreters in the farms in Turkey came to me, and we ended up building for Procter & Gamble, the entire distribution network for the Eastern Med. So we ended up shipping all Procter & Gamble and Kraft's products to Turkey, Lebanon, Syria, Iran, Iraq, Bulgaria, Romania, Ukraine, and other parts of the Black Sea. We sold that company very profitably to a British public company, and I happened to then meet Chancellor Cole through a Solomon relationship, and that led to really establishing 2 long-term healthcare companies, both very much alive today, one in California and one in Germany called Casa Reja, which is now the 3rd or 4th largest healthcare company in Germany. We were there to try to help the elderly after the wall came down. Goldman Sachs and Bank Paribas and many others backed us in our play, and it was a great build of companies. During that period of time, the internet came along, and co-founded a company called AdForce, which we took public in Internet One. We were backed by the royal family in Kuwait, and we're very thankful for their assistance and help. We took it public and then flipped it before Internet One blew up, and it was a great run. We created about $500 million worth of wealth for our shareholders. Since that time, I've really gone back to my roots, and one of the things I want to share with you is today I'm very focused on food, water, energy, minerals, and renewables. And the deal that Ziad and I met on was a company that extraordinarily excited by. We take all your old PCs and cell phones, and after looking at 30 companies with supposedly breakthrough technology, we found the one that is the winner. It's a company called Camston Rather. And we're able, with the company's IP, to literally recycle 100% of the molecules in this massive waste stream. You may not know it, but there's 40 million metric tons a year of electronic waste. And the dirty smelters can only handle about 20%. And so if you look up on YouTube, 60 Minutes, China e-waste, you'll figure out what the real problem is in the world. And I, like Ziad, believe that you gotta find big solutions to big problems. And that's all we ever hunt for. And when you find a solution, you'll know it because it makes a lot of money, and you don't have to be bashful. And in this case, we're cleaning up the globe, and and this stuff has 3,000 times more precious fruit metals in a ton of e-waste than there is in the best producing gold mines. So it's just absolutely crazy what we do by tearing the earth up to try and get more gold and more palladium and all the rare earths when it's already in front of us. This same company, we're on the path right now, we know how to extract rare earths strategically. What's that mean for the United States? To be able not to be dependent on China for rare earths. It's massive. We're on the road also in our labs to be able to extract lithium from used batteries. Now here's the great news. A plant costs $50 million for us to build. We make, depending on what we put in it, between 60 and 120 million a year in EBITDA. So when you say, can you solve big problems? One thing I learned in life, and I know Ziad, you feel the exact same way, if no problem will stay solved if it doesn't make money. And why we have to walk around worried about making money for doing good is absolutely crazy. We have another company that's in biomass, same thing. It's the first one to take cellulosic biomass, and the payback isn't less than a year, but the payback's less than 3 years. That's good enough to solve a global problem that causes global warming. So in closing, I'd like to just offer up a few of the lessons that I think are most essential. Number one, what you said is right, give. I love taking high school kids, and what I do is I have a thing called the life plan. The life plan starts with a simple question for high school kids, and really anyone at any age can do the same thing. It starts with the question, what do you want to do after you die? And from there, we work our way back to the kid's age, but we cover all aspects of life, including how they're going to support their families and in return give back as well. And that the giving goes beyond any measure of wealth. I mean, when I look at my life and I say to myself what I'm most proud of, it's my adopted Mexican son, or it's the kids that have done the life plan that I know have now made a real living doing things that are cutting edge and making a difference, and they don't do it waiting for a government handout or the next research grant. Not that that's not good, it's just that they do it by making capitalistic solutions to big problems. So in saying that, I'm more than happy to talk to everyone after the main event with the cannabis industry here tonight, but I want to thank you all for the award, and I'm here to help any of you. My email coordinates are online. If you ever have a question, the one thing that I now almost slipped by that I promised to share is in our large-scale project builds, we've learned how to mitigate risk. So when you talk about a new technology and a new venture, oftentimes you're dependent on venture capital or expensive private equity, and I think it's important that you understand that a lot of these project finance-oriented companies that we build, we use a different technique, and what we do is we're able to transfer the many risks that are on the balance sheet of a startup to a single A or double A reinsurance company. And this is done through an insurance product. And it's not just a contract, we oftentimes will stack several contracts so that every adverse event that a company faces, we can now transfer to a risk taker that wants the risk. And so, for instance, in this company, the e-waste company that we're building as we speak, we have Munich Re that's given us a performance insurance guarantee policy that guarantees our lenders return of principal and interest. We have a delay in startup policy that's a totally different contract where we're able to get paid. Oftentimes, whenever you're doing something new, what's the number one or two things that goes wrong? You're late, or you're delayed, and your budget's too high. And so all of these varied risks in the delay in startup cover, we're actually pinned to a first year's EBITDA. In this case, it's a $45 million EBITDA, and we're able to then literally get paid by the month for any shortfall, which allows us to then borrow low-cost debt versus take in expensive private equity. You betcha. Thank you.
It's all about wealth creation, stupid. That's a typical example. What he has created, what he has done, what he's been through. Every one of you can do this and more. That's the spirit. This is what we're doing here. Solve big problems, create obscene wealth, empower people, educate the young generations, etc. Anyway, so we're moving now to the core of the event. This is how it works. I'm going to have a set of questions to the panelists. Any one of them, they can address this, think out loud. Then I'm going to leave it up to you to have the questions. So it's very interactive. You're not here just listening to us. You're interacting with me and with the panelists. It's very interactive. Democratization of ideas. That's the plan. Those on this side will ask their questions on this mic. Those on that side will go to this mic and ask the questions. I don't want any comments, please, just questions. What is your question? Some people talk for half an hour, give us comments. I will shut them down. Just a question. What is your question? What do you want to know? There's no stupid questions. Everything here stays in this room. Yes, we are on videos, but you know, they won't see your face on the video, they'll see your back. So, you know, it can be as controversial as you want. That's the intent. Nothing is normal here. We don't want anything normal. Normal is boring and stupid. Get it in your system. So, we have a panel of 5 here. 5 outstanding individuals, handpicked, super successful, ranging across the spectrum. I start with Matthew Gregarek, Chief Executive Officer at Pure Harvest Cannabis Group. Matthew. Neale Davis Gibbons, founder of SKM Cannabis. Edward Ray, founder of Connoisseur Genetics and Concentrates. Garvis Toler, president of Data Services Elix TSC. And last but not least, Tyler Beuerlein, Chief Revenue Officer at Hyper. So let's do first things first. Each one of you, could you please share in no more than a couple of minutes your personal and professional background? I can read it. I don't feel like reading it. I think it better comes from the horse's mouth. You can start with Matt.
All right. Well, first, thank you for the opportunity to come up here. That was a fantastic opening speech.
Thank you.
You were made for the cannabis industry. Like I said, my name is Matt Gregarek. I'm the CEO of Pure Harvest Cannabis Group. We are a publicly traded company, ticker symbol PHCG. We are set up as a holding company that focuses on all facets of the cannabis industry. We have a wholly owned subsidiary that focuses on hemp CBD side of things, a wholly owned subsidiary that focuses on THC, and then we have a third investment in an option agreement on a sustainable energy company focusing on green energy and tech using solar and wind for cultivation practices in the cannabis space. My background, I kind of come from a capital market side of things, not so much the cannabis side. And I'm a small kind of venture capital private equity firm. Like you said, I started off with my own skin in the game and invested across various asset classes, oil and gas to tech to clothing to bubblegum to about 2012 cannabis. From Denver, Colorado, so being one of the first states out there that stepped into this industry, there was a lot of opportunity I saw. And so, with the banking laws still kind of where they're at today, we were able to come in and essentially invest into some of these companies. We did pretty well, but got to the time where we needed, we're looking for our money back. And so we came in and did the traditional reverse merger. Some I did the traditional S1, and so ended up taking a handful of companies public in the cannabis space, got a good working knowledge of it, and then allowed me to really understand the market. It was the wild, wild west there for a little bit in the cannabis space, especially in Colorado. And was able to kind of learn and see what was working, who was doing things right, and who were the players in the state of Colorado. Essentially, I had an opportunity to come in as CEO in late summer of Pure Harvest. And the first thing I did was go to all the industry experts I've known in the Colorado side of things and build a fantastic team.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you. Neale.
My name is Neale Gibbons. I'm the founder of SKM Cannabis Products in Colorado. I've been cultivating since 1996, so I've been in the cannabis space for a very long time. I have a Bachelor of Science, which I'm most reliant upon, several degrees included underneath that, and have created a vertically integrated company from the ground up in what is now the Silicon Valley of the cannabis market, Colorado. And I appreciate what has been happening there. Excited to see where it goes next.
Fantastic. Edward?
Name is Eddie Ray. I own a cannabis company out in Colorado. Last year we developed what has now become the fastest growing edible brand in the state of Colorado. We're looking to expand in multiple states. Prior to getting into cannabis, I was an investment banker for about 25 years. Worked for some of the largest firms in the U.S. And a friend of mine says, hey, you got to try this. It's a great opportunity. It's really exciting. Gave up my licenses, and I couldn't be more happy.
Fantastic. Garvis?
My name is Garvis Toler. I work for Helix TCS, ticker HLIX. We're traded over the counter. We are the leading critical infrastructure services company in the cannabis space, which means everything from software, data, even security, really trying to help folks not just stay out of jail, but to stay in business and thrive. And so, as most of you are aware, compliance is everything in the space. You want to keep the lights on. We're really helping transition lots of veterans that have been in the space for a long time to a new environment that is very much dependent on compliance. So we exist and operate in every state where cannabis is currently legal, and it's all about compliance. So we understand the different pieces of the puzzle and incorporate it to the software to help the industry really thrive and be transparent. My personal background, I'm fairly new to the space. Prior to this, I've got an MBA. I played a little bit of basketball in college about 80 pounds ago. Then came to Wall Street and did various jobs. And I really identified with a lot of what you're saying because you're almost trained to be a corporate cog.
Yep.
That's what we're all groomed and trained to be. And I really went down that path, working at some of the largest banks in the world. I ended up, after working in the fintech space, running capital markets at the New York Stock Exchange. So that's, it doesn't get more corporate than that. But what I really learned there was a lot about what all the folks we see today as corporate powerhouses all started as entrepreneurs. Most of them did. And so to be able to ring the bell for those guys who started companies and women who started companies in their garages and celebrated their families was really impressive. And so,
Thank you, Garvis.
Tyler Beuerlein with Hyper. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of the company. I also chair the National Cannabis Industry Association Banking and Financial Services Committee. For those of you that don't know who we are, we're a combination of a RegTech and FinTech that has been built to give financial institutions the ability to effectively bank highly regulated industries. One of those, obviously, is the cannabis industry. As it stands today, over half of the institutions in the U.S. banking this industry to scale are our clients. And we had to build out that network to enable our payment products to go nationwide for the first time in our 6-year history, which just happened about 4 months ago. So we've got a really unique frontlines perspective of this industry across every state. We touch the banks and credit unions, the industry directly. We spend a lot of time with bank and credit union regulators, and a lot of time now with state government folks trying to help them through these issues. My personal background, I was a former athlete. I was in the Mets organization for a lot of years, so go New York, the blue and orange New York. And I started a beverage company when I got out that I had for 5.5 years. And then when I transitioned out of that, I became really one of the first, if not the first, people into the company outside of ownership, and we now have 55 employees.
Thank you, Tyler. Very impressive. Very impressive. All right, let me start with my first question. Anyone of you can answer this question, or all of you. What is the state of the cannabis industry today?
Well, there's you're seeing a little bit of a market correction here. You're seeing kind of a mass sell-off. I think, a lot of people got into this industry and were investing in this industry. And, the market valuations that they're putting on some of these, companies were a little bit ludicrous, if you ask me. It's comparable to maybe the dot-com era, but, it's everyone's kind of selling off now, and I'm fine with that because that opens up a lot of opportunity for, our mission and our game plan here at Pure Harvest. That's my...
5 years ago, you could have bought a penny stock off the Canadian Stock Exchange, right? And there's a whole bunch of cannabis companies out there. 5 years ago, they're all penny stocks.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody starts buying in. And just like Matt said, it is just like the tech bubble right now. Everybody's kind of jumping in, everybody's trying to get their foot in the door, trying to get a position in cannabis. What we're still learning about the cannabis industry still has a long ways to go, right? More states are starting to figure out the technology is getting better, the strains are getting better, edibles are getting better. We're coming out with better products that are centered more around water-soluble products and nanotechnology. Our Neale, what do you call it? Neale, our science guy. Neale is the science guy. We'll probably talk about that. I think this industry is still new. Everybody's looking for a great opportunity and they're trying to jump in early. And a lot of the companies that are actually supporting a lot of the valuations in the market right now are completely overvalued. Over-diluted. You're talking companies that have only been around for about 5 years that have 1 billion shares outstanding. How are you going to return value to your shareholders? 1 billion shares. The second largest company is like 857 million shares. So the two or three largest companies that are out there that are supporting a lot of the valuations in the market are just so valued. And you've got a lot of smaller companies that are coming in and they're coming in under the radar, and you're going to see a lot of really good things happening in
Neale, Tyler?
Well, in the public markets, again, to their point, we saw these valuations go through the roof. These guys went public on the Canadian market. The money that was going into the Canadian market had very little to do with the Canadian market. And what I mean by that is, in 2017 alone, the tax revenues generated by the limited license U.S. markets generated more tax revenue than the entire estimated value of the entire Canadian cannabis industry. So it's always been about the U.S. As these operators started to go public, they took
the monopoly money they essentially had, and they went on a massive land grab. So they went to all the limited license markets knowing that those were going to be the most lucrative, and if they could lock up those markets, they were going to have controlling interest there. So they struck these deals. Over time, that liquidity has dried up, and now you're seeing a number of, I'm going to say, vulture funds come in to solve the liquidity crisis, but in exchange for, I personally think, just the ability to take control of these assets at a huge discount when things go south. So to their point, I think we're seeing a huge correction, but I think it's healthy in a lot of ways for the industry.
Garvis?
Yeah, I would echo all of that. And I think to be successful, you really have to be a student of history. And we can look at the .com, we can look at just about every other industry, and they go through this where you have a land grab phase, but eventually the cream does rise to the top. And during times like this is when smart operators who are running real businesses with real professional teams are able to really acquire and survive. So I would say that.
Neale?
I think these guys have done a great job articulating what the state of the industry currently is. I would have to just add, if I was to sum it up with some broad strokes here, the state of the industry is very strong, and it's getting stronger every day right now. We're in a place where we're sitting here talking about something that's still federally illegal, but not for very long. And as these corrections take form, as we see them play out, as evaluations become more true form, I think it'd be very interesting once these milestones start to fall, once the banking industry gets in line, we're able to actually access banking, the federal tax implications, and of course federal legalization. We're barely just seeing the tip of the iceberg here for what's coming. This is going to be a billion or if not trillion-dollar a year industry, and it's going to happen very quickly.
And just to expand that one thing real quick, we're also just now realizing all the different applications for the product. So there are so many other industries that this can go into. They're just now, I'm going to say, coming to the forefront. So that's also going to impact it greatly.
How do you see data analytics affecting the space? I mean, who will be the major consumers of these products? Garvis, you can start.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't believe that this is going to be a massive opportunity for the industry. And if you look at the global providers in the data analytics space, they can't touch this sector the way they will in the future. So part of what we're trying to do is fill that gap right now, because to run real growing entrepreneurial businesses, you need data, and that's really the only way to operate. So we certainly believe in that, and we're already seeing the more sophisticated players, and I'm sure these folks have already started thinking of the world that way. They're already doing some pretty interesting things with data, and that's certainly good.
Anyone wants to add something?
I think all you have to do is you got to look at who's using, right? And my parents smoked marijuana back in the '60s. And my dad was a singer, and my mom was a group. I used to tease my mom all the time, and she was just a groupie chicken. And now you have this huge group of millennials that are absolutely on board with using cannabis. And I can tell you a story when I'm sitting in a dispensary, and there's a 25-year-old and an 85-year-old lady who were arguing over which strain was the best strain to have first thing in the morning. Or the 45-year-old mom who wakes up eating 200 milligrams of edibles, after she takes her kids to school, thank God. But you can look at the analytics all you want, and I'll give you a really big anecdote. A couple months ago, there's an article that came out that California is now the largest legal cannabis market in the U.S. Yeah, and then it followed up with the black market in California is 10 times bigger.
Wow.
That's all you need to know about it.
All right. So, Ed, what are some of the challenges the marijuana business have to overcome during startup and to achieve sustainable growth? I mean, could you maybe explain some of the advantages between the cultivation, the different cultivation processes, whether indoor, outdoor, greenhouse, etc.?
For a startup, I started my company 5 years ago, and I didn't know anything about cannabis when I first got in. I surrounded myself with some really good people. can go outdoors, you can go indoors. Outdoors, really, really low cost of goods. But indoors can give you your best product, so you gotta find a really good medium there. But there's a lot of challenges in terms of just getting into the market, right? I got in the market, there was already 1,400 other companies in Colorado, right? So how do I set myself apart? How do I create a better experience for the consumer than the guy that's sitting next to you, right? And that's what this entire industry is about experience. You think about the two best companies out there in the U.S. You got Apple and you got Amazon. Yeah, there's a product and probably the best service in the U.S. $1 trillion company and multi-billion-dollar company. But if you think about what those companies do, they provide a service or an experience, right? You've got to be able to figure out what kind of experience you want to create, what type of product you want to create, and then build these specific experiences. I think in Colorado, and some of the companies that I've talked to in multiple states, is you got to be a dreamer. There's got to be somebody that is constantly a dreamer. I'm not talking about the guy that says, hey, I got a $200 million idea. No, you got to have somebody that's a dreamer. If I want to create the best product and I want to stand in the room toe-to-toe with the 800-pound gorilla, that's what I've got to be able to do. So some of the big challenges is just competitive. You got to be very, very driven. You got to be a dreamer. You got to know what you want. You got to go after it.
I can add something real quick.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
We operate in an ancillary business, but I think it applies to all of them. I think a lot of folks start businesses fighting the last war, and so this kind of goes hand in hand with being a dreamer, but trying to figure out what is the world going to look like in 5 years when this is off the schedule. What are some of the different changes when a lot of the folks building businesses today to help solve problems aren't going to exist in a few years and that are already starting to solve themselves? Who's dreaming about those problems and how to solve those? So I would add that. I think those are great points.
Yeah, I'll give you a simple one, just trying to get a bank account.
Okay.
Basic. Trying to start.
Interesting.
It's challenging.
It's getting better.
It is getting better, but it's still challenging.
So, question for all of you. So how would you explain the opportunity to an investor that's new to the industry? Anyone?
Yeah, I'll start with that. We have an investment fund that runs alongside Hyper. And the reason we built it out is because we get to see everything from the financial institution now. So we have access to data sets that are very unique. We've got to know most every major operator in the country, and we kind of know where the thought process is and where people are going. The one thing I would tell investors is be a student. Every single market is completely different than the other. You can't equate two together. So first off, you have to start by getting into the market, understanding the dynamic. And I'll give you a perfect example. If you look at a state like Ohio, Ohio has a medical market, but they've approved chronic pain as a condition, which makes it what I call a protected rec market. So if you look at a state like Arizona, yes, it's medical, yes, you have to have a prescription, but in that market, your demographic is the 19 to 30-year-old male with a hangdown. They have an e-rate, and they go get their prescription, and now they can buy cannabis. The revenues there are massive. And in a state like Ohio, they're notoriously restrictive. Those licenses are going to be worth their weight in gold, and the revenues you should expect there are huge. On the opposite side, you look at a state like Oklahoma. Oklahoma has issued a retail license for every 93 patients. It's a giant sprint to the bottom. So again, just understand the market dynamic, try and really learn the industry, and that will help shape your investment thesis.
The rest of you, please. Want to hear what you say.
I'm still my own funding because I think it's a lot about finding someone that's offering something different and not just a copycat of everybody else. So I would believe in that.
Certainly, yeah. Hanging on to what the gentleman have already articulated very well. Being able to just go out there and actually find the individuals who are tapped in enough to be able to have a pulse, see what's coming, see where it's evolved from, and perhaps where it may be going. I think we've already touched on a little bit, being able to take consumers where they live in terms of having
I think there's a couple of different opportunities you have to look for. I think going forward, you're going to see a lot more public opportunities. A lot of the public companies are coming in, not only here in the U.S. but also in Canada, that are going to be buying up a lot of stuff. We see it already in some markets that are going to be coming up. On the private sector, I think you really kind of have to look at some of the things that we've already talked about, is making sure that you're getting somebody who's a dreamer, somebody who knows what they're going to do, someone who's willing to fight with the big guys. And if you think that, just from an opportunity standpoint, I mean, who invested in Apple back in 2001 was $2.70, right? That big of an opportunity. Who had enough of a hindsight in 2005 to invest in Amazon, which could be the very first $1 trillion valuation capitalization stock on the market. And this industry is going to get huge, so there's opportunities on the private sector and on the public side as well. So it really kind of depends on how deep you want to get. There's got to be opportunities out there. You just got to be, you got to take the opportunity. You absolutely have to take that.
I think I'll talk from the public side of things. Go back to the fundamentals. You look at which ones are the closest path to profitability. I think that's a big hang up on what the Canadian market did to us. There's these large, huge market valuations out there, and no one knows when they're going to become profitable. So, when you're looking at a public company, looking at the fundamentals, looking at the vision, the teamwork, the new states that might be entering, all things that really need to be considered.
Okay, let's have some fun now, okay? Out of the box completely. The prize is $100 million. The one who gives me the best pitch as to how to invest $100 million in a space I don't know much about, but I'm betting on the smartest people who really know a lot of the space. I usually don't invest, people tell me, what industry you invest in? I'm not investing in industries, or themes, or technology. I invest in people. I'm looking who are the people who are the smartest, the most resilient, the ones who are skin in the game, the ones who have a track record. All of you are very good. Which one will have to choose? I'm not going to say which one I'm going to choose. The price is $100 million. Give me in 5 minutes each your best pitch to get the $100 million.
I'll do it in 10 seconds.
10 seconds?
I'll tell you the multi-state operator you go in,
Don't
provide a debt component to collateralize all of their assets, and you'll probably own them for a fraction of their value within the next 6 months.
Nice. Nice, Tyler. Garvis?
Well, I really dream, and coming from a exchange perspective, this industry is going to need more sophistication in terms of how it's traded, and that means everything from the derivatives to the high-end commodity commerce that we expect from every other commodity. Someone needs to build that. I think we can, but I absolutely believe that is going to be a winner for this.
So this is how you would deploy $100 million.
I will build an exchange. That
Build an
will
exchange.
be the place for price discovery and commerce for the industry.
Very nice. Neale?
Well, keeping in mind that I'm a scientist, a cultivator, an extraction specialist, and not a financial sales pitch person, kind of out of my league here.
At least you recognize the limitation. That's good. That's great. Go ahead.
I'll
Thanks,
take
Mark.
a swing at this. You want to invest in cannabis space. That's terrific. Do you know if you want to cultivate or extract? Do you know if you want to be a multi-state operator or international? Are you looking for just a small demographic, a small niche market, or are you trying to go big? Whatever your answer is going to be, I already have products formulation, over 20 years experience, boots on the ground, real world, actual implications, and actual putting...
Which gives you the biggest kick for your buck in the shortest amount of time? I don't have time to fill in the files and analyze. which gives you the biggest return in the shortest amount of time, where I can have maximum impact. I want to be dangerous. To the competitors say, who is this guy who's putting $100 million in something that's so disruptive, that's so dangerous, they're going to shit in their pants. That's the answer I want.
Certainly can provide that.
Listen at his best. Not with listen at his best. Go ahead, Neale.
All right, I'll let Neale be the science guy. $100 million.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to build you probably the largest indoor and outdoor grow facility on all of the land. At the end of about 5 years, prices will start going down. I'm going to build you an operation with absolutely the lowest cost of goods. You're going to extract, you're going to sell flower, you're going to make consumer goods. You're probably going to make about, I don't know, I'd probably come up with like 200 or 300 different consumer goods for you because the margins are the highest.
Mm-hmm.
Probably going to stay away from the dispensary because I don't want to have to deal with the taxes. I tell Matt this all the time. I want to stay away from the dispensaries. I want to build consumer products. We're going to get it out there, and probably in about 7 to 10 years, $250 million.
Nice. Matt, the grand finale.
That's not bad. I'll take that. $100 million. I would, maybe find a company that's a little under the radar that has put together a team of experts in the field, maybe from the state of like Colorado, that knows this industry, knows what they're doing. I would take these experts and put together a vertically integrated multi-state operation and take them to these new states where there's a lot of money, a lot of people licensed, a lot of real estate, but no one knows the industry. They don't know how to grow. They don't know how to cultivate. They don't know how to run things. And then I would use that capital, become a vulture capitalist, and then go in there and take over these new states that are so desperately looking for help.
I love it. Saying that, I want to add build on that. Okay? For me, business is war. The way you win wars is by gathering intelligence second to none.
Absolutely.
Nobody knows what the hell you're talking about. And that's how you're going to make it killing. Not how smart you are, lots of smart people, lots of wealthy people, but not a lot of people who know how to gather intelligence. They're too lazy, or they don't know how to go about it. The question for you, all 5 of you, what is something that most people don't know about the cannabis industry? Just one thing, that they really are clueless. And this is where I would focus my efforts on. But now we can share it.
Something they don't know about the cannabis industry. Well, it's a Schedule I drug. It's federally legal. I think there's 250,000 full-time employed people in the country in the cannabis industry.
How many?
250,000
That's it.
at the moment.
Interesting.
On the legal side, yes. On the legal side.
Go ahead. The rest of Neale? Or Eddie? Something that most people don't know. Please go ahead.
First and foremost, marijuana, cannabis, whatever you want to call it, it's already legal. We may leave here today, it may step outside, and it's still federally illegal when you walk out this door. But the overall picture, the overall landscape, is that cannabis is already legal. And if you're not beginning to hedge your bets, pick your horses in this race, you're falling behind already. What I mean more directly, there's a really great example from right here in New York that just happened recently. A Vermont CBD legal company, completely with their licenses from the Vermont Department of Agriculture, recently shipped down just over 100 pounds of the hemp flower to a store to be sold here in New York City. NYPD heard about this, arrested everyone involved, and took the product, posted it up on their big picture, all the officers standing by the big pile of what they thought was marijuana. It was not marijuana. actual certified hemp. Now, the paradigm I want you to consider is officers can't tell the difference because this is the same plant we're talking about, cannabis hemp. It's the same plant. We're just regulating how much molecule exists in those. So if officers can't tell the difference, if it looks the same, smells the same, tastes the same, has similar effects, and yet there's no field test, no ability to differentiate if this is marijuana or certified hemp, the battle is already lost for the agents, and there's no good mindset to stick behind the notion that this is going to continue to remain illegal, simply because the regulatory bodies can't hold it to be so.
Very insightful. Very insightful, indeed. Something?
Yeah, from the banking perspective, you know, I can't tell you how many times I've seen an article about the cash crisis or the banking crisis. I've even done interviews with reporters, and we'll talk about something, and then it gets published, and it's cash crisis because it gets buzz. The overwhelming majority of this industry is transparently banked, period. The states where banking is an issue, those issues have been self-inflicted. And what I mean by this, if you look at a state like California, they've had a gray market for 20 plus years, right? Well, as a bank or credit union, how do I bank an operator if I can't even determine whether or not they're complying with state or local law? So as of January 1, 2018, since the state implemented the program, we've seen 9 institutions come out of the woodworks. I've got a meeting next Tuesday with one that's $45 billion in assets. That problem is rapidly resolving itself. So I would say that's the biggest inaccuracy that I see over and over.
Great point. Garvis.
There's a lot in the news today about vaping, from what the regulators are talking about from a safety and health perspective. If you guys recall, I guess it was a couple months ago now, the deaths were really talked about a lot, and they even talked about a dip. There was some publication that talked about a dip in vape sales, which was really, when you looked at the data, really didn't happen. There was a bit of a spike before the news came out, and so it's kind of a reversion to the mean. But vaping is as popular as ever, and I'm not sure if you guys are as close to it to talk about that, but it's here to stay, and it's going to continue to grow. And I think that's something that really needs to be appreciated.
So how do you see the evolution of speculation in the cannabis and hemp space? What does the future hold for the industry?
For hemp and cannabis?
Yes.
I mean, I think you're kind of seeing it now. You're a lot more kind of infused products. You know, the CBD to THC ratio. I think that's the first thing they can probably see out there. You know, other than that, I mean, that's kind of your world.
What was the question again?
How do you see the evolution of speculation in the cannabis and hemp space? And what does the future hold for the industry?
What I think a lot of people don't know is that there are already 3 Fortune 500 companies that are doing research, consumer product research on cannabis and hemp.
Interesting.
I can't say who, but there are already companies that we invest in that we see and use every day that are already looking to get into this space. Kind of piggyback to what Matt said, you know, it is a class 1 drug. I don't ever see it coming off of that class 1 drug list. You know, people say, hey, if it comes off the Schedule 1 drug list, and you know, banking will open up, and we can open up dispensaries like we have liquor stores. I don't see that happening in this lifetime. But there are companies that are out there, and the way it's going to work is if a soft drink company wants to get into the cannabis or hemp market, they're going to have to open up operations in every single state because each state is required to regulate everything. So and don't think it will ever get to a point where it's federally legal, you know, just because the federal government won't be able to control it. But there's opportunity out there, and there's people that are already looking into it.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I think that gets back to kind of limited license model in medical markets. Eventually, this is going to bleed into mainstream CPG products, and I came from that world, and I can't tell you how many times I get a call from somebody in the hemp-based CBD market and say, "Oh, we need money for hemp cultivation," and I just sit back and kind of shake my head because I got 10 other phone calls that week, and then I get calls from brands, and they say, "Hey, we're developing a brand, and these are our projections." And my first question to them is always, "Who's your competition?" And inevitably, they name 3 brands, that are in the hemp-based CBD market that have a little bit of a footprint. And I try to explain to them, look, you've got to look at it through this lens. This is going to be fed into every mainstream product through a product line extension, and these are operators that already have distribution locked up throughout the country. So if you're not looking at it through that lens, you're not going to survive. In my ex-business partners on the beverage side own a very large alcoholic brand, and look, I mean, it's going in. Whether it's hemp-based CBD or cannabis, the second they feel like they can do it, it's coming into those markets.
Great. All right, I'd like to leave it now to the audience, any questions they have. On this side, you come in here, on that side, you come in there. Go ahead.
Hey guys, thank you very much. I just got 2 questions for you. First one is 3 products, flower, edible, and beverage. Which one has the highest profit margin?
What has the highest profit margin?
Yeah, from the flowers, edibles, and beverage.
Beverage, easy. If you're talking consumer products, the way the market is going, yeah, it's cool, it's hip, everybody wants to do it. But then there's another side of this that says, hey, I want to be real discreet about it. I want to be real convenient. So there's nothing convenient about, walking down the streets, smoking a pipe.
The second question is a farm bill that got released this year said anything below 0.3% THC is not Schedule 1, it's a Schedule 3. So that enables CBD to be brought to the market. That's why all these companies have been just marketing CBD. Do you see that as the next economic revolution in America, especially with all the byproducts that you can create from the hemp plant, such as fiber, materials, and you can name it.
The ancillary products that are potential is unlimited. I mean, long before this even became something to fruition now, there was already touted to be 40,000 different textiles that we can create out of this product, whether it be hemp or cannabis. Everything from nutrient-dense foods to biofuels to classics, sales of ropes, sales of the original seed, our Declaration of Independence. So this is something that's long been there, very in society. We're just now finally starting to get back and be able to use it. And look at some of the potential sustainability questions, the renewable, reuse, recycle, reduce. Looking through that kind of scope of language and sustainability, there's certainly so many side ancillary things we can actually take the waste stream, the stalks and stems, and be able to profit those. Hemp concrete is a really big example where we're taking those stalks and stems and putting them into actually building or reducing the carbon footprint that is way too large just from general concrete. One small
Yes,
Hi, I'm Dawn Hunter. I just flew in from Washington State to help Ziad with his course, which is going to be amazing. And it just happened to be this lineup, and I'm really impressed. But I have a question actually from a good friend of mine who's the CEO of Washington Bud Company. So she's been a grower, she's been very political in Washington State, helping change the regulations. She's been in it for 15 years. She's a grower, she's intimately involved. So I asked her what her question would be. And she said that she's heard that Washington State is not of interest to most investors, and what would have to change in Washington State to make it more attractive? Is there something about Washington State particularly that you need to know?
I think it's a number of license issue, similar to Oregon. But I will say that in Washington State, there are some businesses that have done very well from a fundamental standpoint and have consistent revenue year over year. I think those are attractive, but again, if I'm an investor and I'm choosing between, a rec market with a whole myriad of licenses as opposed to a very limited license market, I'm going to hedge my bet on the limited license market in most cases unless I've got extensive expertise like these gentlemen and can compete in a market like that. I hope that.
So I've looked at taking my products into multiple states, and Washington is one of those states I have to stay away from. And this is why. so the dispensary can make some money, so that the consumer will buy it. And that is just a market that, you know, in this industry, it's all about making sure that your cost of goods are very, very low, that you can be competitive with the other guy who's creating another guy. I mean, you can walk into a dispensary, there's 50 gummies, how do you know which one to buy, right? And you can't be the guy that says, I'm gonna put a gummy out and I'm gonna sell a lot just because I can sell it for half of what everybody else is. No, my gummy has to be better than everybody else's. That means I have to sell it at a reasonable price. Washington is just so ass backwards at how they do their taxes. It's almost impossible for anybody to make money.
Will you please talk to Bezos then?
This is a priceless advice. Priceless advice.
Okay, something you said at the beginning kind of sparked a memory because I was in the internet business in the late 90s. Whenever you have a deregulation in the banking industry, the airlines, telecom, whatever, it immediately sparks chaos, thousands of companies, which is what you just described. And then you have the consolidation, where if you're not bought, you're irrelevant. And you end up with 5 or 6 huge companies that have taken over the business, but they're very, very innovative and they're very good at the business. Who are those companies going to be? Are they going to be guys like you that are building right now, or are they going to be somebody like Coca-Cola or Kraft Foods or Monsanto, somebody who has an existing distribution center? I don't invest in these companies.
I think it's trending towards the big guys kind of sitting on the sidelines. You got big pharma, big tobacco, big alcohol, even a bunch of Wall Street money that's just kind of sitting back there, waiting for to become bankable. Once it becomes bankable, and if it does get scheduled down to a 1 to a 3, you're going to see a lot of those big players get into this market. Now, what they're going to come in and acquire is a seed-to-sale, vertically integrated operators that control the process that has a multi-state footprint. And those companies that are set up like that will be the ones that will be the quickest way for these guys on the sidelines to come in and get market share. Because this industry is taking a bite out of all the big three. It's hurting big pharma. It's hurting big tobacco. It's hurting big alcohol. I mean, you're looking at Coors. We're from Colorado. That's where Golden, Colorado. That's where Coors is from. Their headquarters is Denver-based, and they just shut it down. They're moving everything to Chicago. And they changed their name to Molson Coors Beverage Company. So they took the beer, the alcohol out of the name because I think they're positioning themselves to jump into this market. When the time is right. And is that 12 months down the road? Is it 18? I think maybe 24. It's coming soon. It's my opinion.
Rachel.
Hello, gentlemen. My name is Rachel Troy, and I'm a political cannabis consultant that also works with international business development for a company called Great Northern Harvest. Tonight, I'm curious to extract your thoughts on the recent USDA's ruling regarding the percentage rating for THC, and also your thoughts on their illegal addition of the DEA to the regulatory and protocol measures for hemp production and CBD specifically.
So yes, the 2018 Farm Bill, as you mentioned, did kind of put delineation in there where they've now taken anything that was hemp-derived or 0.3% THC or less and is considered an industrial product, which allows us to move around all 50 states and allows the states to go ahead and set up their own hemp production. My personal 2 cents on that is a low number. 0.3 is low, and again, once and if rescheduling federal legalization of a higher percentage of cannabis actually comes to fruition, I think we're going to see that move up accordingly.
What they did was actually combine 2 separate cannabinoids in their new ruling. They added a non-psychoactive one which is called THCA. This is now combined to include the total THC testings, where a lot of the genetics that would be compliant are now no longer so.
Absolutely. THCA is basically the same as THC because it's not an activated product yet. So as we activate the product, whether it's adding heat, cooking with it, it will eventually become THC. That delineation was a huge factor. It does allow a little more wiggle room on the overall sense that we're getting some movement forward. But again, I don't think that's going to stand for very
Thank you. Wayne. Gentlemen, good evening. I'm Wayne Winsley, CEO of Brave Enough to Fail, America's #1 student motivational program. I'm going to ask you to look into the future a little bit, look into your crystal ball. I speak to high school students. If I am 17, 18 years old, I'm coming out of high school this year, next year, and I'm thinking, I'm serious about getting into this industry at some level, and by the time I graduate from college, I'm thinking a lot of the legal and legislative hurdles will kind of be dealt with, so opportunities are going to be wide open. My question, where would you suggest I focus for the greatest opportunities? Is it in the harvesting end? Is it in derivatives? Is it in marketing or another area? What advice would you give to a young person who's serious about exploring some opportunities in that area?
I would say, get with a vertically integrated operator that's well respected in the community, and get in and figure out what they love, and tell them to embrace failure and just go with it. Because if they really love it and they think that's where they want to be and they get in, they're going to find an aspect of it that they like more than the others, and that's going to kind of guide them. That's how it's happened for me. So hopefully we can.
I'm going to say one of the sciences, any science. I met a guy years ago who has his botany degree from Penn State University. One of the smartest guys I've ever met. Absolutely can tell you everything about resin production, how to grow the plants, why you got to grow with this, why you don't do this. Just absolutely. I think that the direction that the market is going, biochemistry, chemistry, any kind of the sciences, that's what they want to get into. You're talking about an industry that there's going to be a lot of opportunities for research. Yeah. Health and wellness. It's going to get really, really big.
Thank you. Ziad, I know you said no comments, but one thing. I want to say thank you to you and the board of directors for not only your outstanding generosity, but your vision and determination for helping the future of this country. Thank you, Wayne.
I'll keep my comments short. The question only. The comment is this: thanks for being here, guys, and representing the cannabis space. My question is this: when you were given the opportunity to speak about $100 million investment, we heard of a platform for trading, we heard of some branding. How is it that you miss genetics? We're at war here. I'm not blowing all the bullets. So we miss genetics. It's the most important. Tell me why genetics isn't the $100 million question, because that's what I want to know, how you missed it.
My suggestion came from Velocity Capital. Genetics will come, but that's down the road. If you're talking about...
Because I'll own genetics.
What's that?
Good, because I'll just own the genetics while you do that.
Well, that's fine. I'm just saying, if you're talking about Velocity Capital, if I'm going to deploy $100 million today, that's how I'm going to do it. Now, genetics may come down the road, or you may have a team inside that organization that builds out the genetic component after you own the assets to be able to do that in a proper manner. But, that's from a frontline's perspective.
Great answer.
And I would say I'm just not smart enough. All kidding aside, though, I'm speaking about what I know, but I have talked to some very smart people that say a lot of the value is being created today, both in the respect of brands and then also the genetic elements with all this.
Certainly, that's a really good question you posed. We're definitely thinking outside the box with that, and you are finding the low-hanging fruit that's still yet to be picked in this particular conversation. Genetics are extremely important in terms of whether we having a recreational benefit or a true medicinal value to the finished product. Those who have a genetic are able to tie that up or proliferate it and work with other genetics to create the next generation, the next big item. That certainly is going to be a really savvy
Thank you.
Have you ever heard of triple haploid?
I'm gonna completely disagree with what my colleague said. Okay, genetics don't mean jack. I mean, and I'm being candid. You can develop, and you can have genetics all day long, and you're gonna have to explain to me how you're gonna make money with genetics, right? How are you gonna make $1 million? No, because somebody can develop, you can develop a sour kush genetic strain that's exclusive to you, that you like. In 12 months, I'm gonna come up with a different sour kush squash with strawberry fields that everybody's gonna want. Every 12 months, every 6 months, a new genetics is coming out, and everybody's forget about what came out last year, right? So if you can develop and keep your own genetics and keep it in a little box and underneath your bed, and then you're gonna have to prove to me how you're gonna make money, because I don't see it.
Very good point, thank
Have
you.
genetics. Go with it.
Yeah, on the hemp genetic side of things, I said we're a vertically integrated multi-state operator. Vertically integrated is seed to sale, and that means even controlling the genetics down on the seed level. There is definitely, you find a strain that might be high in CBG, that's something that's very valuable. On the hemp side of things, and I think Eddie's coming from.
I think you got to extract it. I mean, I have a strain we popped from seed, and we had no idea what we were getting. My grower popped it, and smelled amazing. We were all like in there, all ready to harvest, and we harvested, we extracted it, and it turned out to be the most amazing strain. And it's got lower THC than it does. It's got like this huge CBD concentrate, and the THC is just enough that it's just enough to get you high, but the body high is just really, really good, and it just works. We had no idea what we were getting into, right? I think it'll be last year.
Go ahead.
David Goder. What exchanges do you prefer or do you have to stay away from? What's easier to raise institutional money? Do you prefer like the Neale exchange in Canada to get institutional money? Do you have to be on the OTCBB for retail trading? Can you not be on the NASDAQ because it's illegal? Some of you guys are in the pink sheets. What are the pros and cons? Where is it easiest to get money, institutional money? Where is it easiest to get liquidity? Can you dual list? What are the pros and cons of where you should list?
Well, you're seeing a lot of the American companies went up to Canada and got the dual listing up there in
Toronto or Neale or TSX or
I think on all of them, on just the Canadian exchange, CSX. That's where all the early players that want to become public in the space went. They went up there. I can point some figures maybe at the whole private equity Canadian crew that might have caused this potential bubble and correction. They went up there. They were able to invest into it. These firms, through their reverse merger, they owned the shells. They threw them in there. They got the cheap stock, and they made a lot of money on it. And they inflated these valuations, made it really high. The New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ's a little tricky. You got the qualifications. We can't touch the plant. So if you're a company that could be in the space, but you're not plant touching, you qualify for that. So you're seeing a lot of the firms, on the OTC trading right now. Now, if you're looking to go, raise capital, being a non-touching plant firm, you can, and you have the qualifications to get on New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ, you can do that, but everyone's kind of living in the OTC right now, either pink sheet, QB, at the moment.
So if you're on OTC, do you want to list in Canada also on the senior exchange so you can raise institutional money?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go, if you're looking for the big institutional money and the big dollar amount, like that's kind of the way you have to do it these days.
U.S. or Canadian institutions? Or?
It's a combination of both. I think it's heavily weighted on the Canadian side right now. That's why
Okay, thank you.
Part of the U.S. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi everyone. I just had a quick question about the Safe Banking Act and your thoughts on that. Do you think that's going to open up the banking more for the industry or not? And the second
LED?
LED.
Yeah, you don't want me to.
I'll weigh in on safe banking. So there's been a lot of publicity about it. Everybody, kind of throws out it's kind of a cure for everything right now. And as it's written today, my fear is it's going to have very little impact on this industry from a banking perspective. So one, the majority of the industry is already banked. Two, if you look at that document, there's one word throughout that makes it essentially more symbolic than anything to a bank or credit union. That word is solely. So they can't solely be penalized for making the state of the cannabis industry. Well, if I'm a bank or credit union examiner and I walk into an institution that's done something wrong, I've inevitably violated any number of BSA AML laws that is very easy for an examiner to couple with the fact that I'm banking the state of the cannabis industry. Yep. So, and one last thing, this is a highly regulated industry problem as much as it is a cannabis problem. What I mean by that is there are industries that are perfectly legal today that have essentially been shut out of the banking system that dwarf cannabis from a volume perspective. Check cashers, payday lenders, cross-border remittance, the gun and ammo industry. So if something poses a risk to an institution, they're not going to be very likely to bank it. And this will always be that. So that's one thing. Secondly, on the Senate side of the fence, they view legislation like Operation Choke Point as a direct attack on the Second Amendment to the banking system. So in my conversations with a lot of those folks, they're sitting back going, okay, why are we going to help with these things when it doesn't really solve the issue? So we at the NCIA are trying to give the document more teeth, and we're lobbying hard for that. But as it stands today, I don't think it's going to have nearly the impact that people think.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Hi, Peter Wells. I was curious, a couple of you guys, in your comments mentioned major consumer products companies looking to get into this industry, I think both on the CBD and THC side. I guess in both markets, if you have a different thought, what is holding them back right now? Is it purely regulatory? Is it supply chain issues? Is it reliable source? And when do you see that opening up in some of the big consumer companies stepping in the market?
It's more regulatory than anything, especially on the cannabis side. I think there's a number of lobbyists that are probably trying to push for to open it up a little bit more, but I just don't see it happening. I think with the Cole memo, the federal government wants to leave it up to each state to regulate it. So if I'm a beverage company, I'm having to open up operation every single state. But they're doing research. On the CBD side, I think you'll start seeing a lot more consumer products out there on the CBD side. But I mean, the CBD companies out there, and I know there's a couple of guys out here in the audience that have some CBD companies. It's going to get to a point where it's going to get very, very flooded. There's going to be a lot of product out there, and it'll continue to grow, and then somebody else will come in and build a better box.
I would throw in on that the generational normalization is going to be a huge sociological factor, meaning that as the current age population starts to move on in their life cycle, and the younger generations come up, the social and general acceptance across this nation is starting to change. We're seeing the CBD kind of lead the charge right now, and you've already heard my talk on how you can't have one without the other falling close behind. But again, the moral and social folkways of each little township tucked into this country and around the world, that general social acceptance has to reach a certain point. I can't say which companies, but I can tell you for a fact that pretty much any top 5 company you can name will actually already have a product or be testing their toes in the water. And so yeah, as they've already indicated, the regulatory aspect, the federal non-acceptance for a lot of these products is secondary, probably only to the reefer madness mentality that was instilled so long ago that we're just now starting to move on.
1 minute.
1 minute? All right. First of all, thanks for, giving me the opportunity to come up here. I told you kind of at the beginning, Pure Harvest Cannabis Group, when I came in here, I, put together a team of experts. These are two guys on my team that are part of Pure Harvest. We're putting together a group of talented, good people, and you get good people together, you're going to do good things. Another gentleman on our team is this guy right down here, Paul Vencia.
Stand up, Paul.
He is the youngest board member ever of the Financial Policy Council.
Yes, he's the youngest board member of Finance Policy.
Yes, and he is part of Team Pure Harvest, and it is also his birthday.
Eddie.
Thank you. I love New York. My wife's from New York, so I keep trying to get her to move back there. She's like, no, she wants to stay in Colorado. Absolutely love it here. So it's a great opportunity. Paul asked us. I said, God, I'd love to do this. But I think, like I said, you got to have a dreamer. You got to have an idea of where you want to go. And in this industry, there's going to be risks. I mean, look at the vape industry and the vape market right now that's going on. And all that's going to do is force some very, very smart people to come up with better products, come up with better products. And that's what this industry is all about. Finding a better way to medicate, find a better way to get people the medicine that they're looking for, get it into products that people use on an everyday basis. And that's where a huge amount of this opportunity is at.
Thank you very much. Lee.
Again, thank you so much to you and the Financial Policy Council for having us. I think the big takeaways for me going on is obviously I have my own personal opinions here, but I do see federal legalization acceptance happening in my lifetime. I definitely see some of the banking regulations starting the economy to be straightened out and actually bolstering and supporting what the movements are already creating in the marketplace, the drive between hemp and cannabis. And certainly I think the biggest buzzword, the one that's really a takeaway when we evolve this conversation beyond profits, and is the notion of the people behind this and the sustainability, the environmental stewardship is in my mind so top of the list for where we have to be. We have taken something that is traditionally grown indoors because it's been illegal, and now we need to get back to a point of doing traditional agriculture, getting it back to not only a sustainability standpoint, but if you are very concerned about the penny wise on it, sustainability and efficiency go hand in hand. And as you become more efficient, one will realize greater profits because your cost of production will go down. So there really is a lot of warm and fuzzies still out there. There's some low-hanging fruit we can still pick, but again, sustainability and renewable is going to be the buzzword to generate moving industry forward.
Thank you so much. Garvis?
Thank you so much for inviting me. This is my second one. I was able to do a fantastic panel about a month ago. I love the message of personal responsibility and empowerment. That's ultimately what is going to drive everything. I want to challenge the audience who's looking for opportunities to consider the pick and shovel plays. It's not as sexy as these folks that are doing the branding and the cool science, but it is going to be important for this industry to survive and to thrive and to grow. So there's lots of great companies out there, and there are going to be some creative in the future that are going to take those opportunities to try to find the picks and shovels of what all operators are going to need to really be successful.
Yeah, for me, I've been very lucky and blessed to be on the front lines of this for so long and have such a unique view of this industry. And I guess my statement to you is more of an offer. If you have any questions, if you need to know about it, my cell phone's on my card. I spend time with people every day just explaining the different dynamics in markets or helping them find a bank account or helping them with any number of issues. And we feel a real responsibility to do that. So if I can help in any way, I mean it, call. Happy to have those conversations. Happy to have any discussions you like.
Thank you very much. Well, this is our last event of the year. I hope to see you all next year, early 2020, new decade. We have a lot of very exciting things that's coming up. I hope to have all your support now that you know exactly what our mission is, what our agenda is. To close, I invite you all here. We're going to take a picture for the whole group as we usually do for every event. Thank you very much for coming.